Mr. Denny, I'm going to have you go ahead and do your presentation now.
Thank you. At the May 12th meeting, the board accepted a $2,500 donation from Walmart, 8421 Colerain Avenue. That donation was for our K-9 unit. It helped us get the vehicle prepared and much of the needed equipment for Brian and Cuda to be able to take the streets. Tonight, Walmart would like to present us with the check and actually just stand in front of the board and have a chance for us to thank them for their continued support and everything they've done for us. We have Dan Rodenberg, who's the store manager, and Heather Gomes, who is the asset protection manager with us.
Was there someone here on this tonight, Brian? Was there supposed to be?
I don't think they are attending the meeting, but they asked us to pass this.
We had a request to recognize September as the Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, so we have a proclamation to that effect. It says, whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection report that cancer is the leading cause of death by disease among children in the United States, and that this tragic disease is detected in nearly 15,000 of our nation's youngest people each year. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children, Inc., founded nearly 20 years ago by Stephen Firestein, a member of the philanthropic Max Factor family, and sister organizations as Kids Cancer Connection, Inc., are dedicated to helping these children and their families. Whereas through its uniquely sensitive and comforting Magical Caps for Kids program, the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection distribute thousands of beautiful handmade caps and decorated baseball caps to children who want to protect their heads following the trauma of chemotherapy, surgery, and/or radiation treatments. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection also sponsored nationwide Courageous Kid recognition award ceremonies and hospital celebrations in honor of a child's determination and bravery to fight the battle against childhood cancer. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection provide a variety of vital patient psychological service to children undergoing cancer treatment at the Cancer and Blood Disease Institute at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, as well as participating hospitals throughout the country, thereby enhancing the quality of life for these children and their families. Be it proclaimed that the Colerain Township Board of Trustees does hereby recognize September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month.
Thank you.
And we have a proclamation. Next on the agenda, we have a public hearing on the White Oak Garden Center. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Second? Aye.
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 Was there any specific presentation on this tonight?
Yes, ma'am, there is.
Perfect.
Before you tonight is ZA case 2015-03, which is a zone map amendment and preliminary development plan request for White Oak Garden Center located at 3579 Blue Rock Road. The applicant proposes to change the zoning of the parcel from R-5 suburban residential and B-1 neighborhood business district to PDB planning development business. Along with the zone change request, the applicant proposed a preliminary development plan for the site to allow for the expansion of the existing garden center business with a site plan including the addition of new greenhouses, additional parking, and streetscape improvements on the existing commercial area of the site. This project, White Oak Garden Center, came before the Rural Zoning Commission in April of 1985 for a zone change, as well as in front of the Colerain Township Zoning Commission in May of 1985 for the final development plan. This particular application in front of you did go through an informal concept hearing in November of 2014, and just last month received a 6-0 vote of approval from the Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission and a 5-0 recommendation of approval of the preliminary development plan and zone map amendment from your Colerain Township Zoning Commission. It does sit before you this evening, and will be back in front of the Zoning Commission for a final development plan for final approval at a date to be determined in the future.
I only have one person actually signed in to speak on this, Mr. Abercrombie.
Hi, I'm Craig Abercrombie, the applicant on behalf of White Oak Garden Center, the civil engineer. I have Jeff Webler behind me, the owner of White Oak Garden Center, and we're here for any questions you have regarding the zoning amendment.
I have none.
I don't have any at this time. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No.
Was there anyone else signed in specifically for this issue? No, it's just for this specific thing.
First of all, we all shop at the White Oak Garden Center. They do a great job. But I have a couple of questions. First of all, it almost seems like we're trying to squeeze a lot into a smaller piece of property than maybe what we should be doing, because in some cases, the residents, I guess, to the west, they got a very small buffering between this, the business, and that seems real upsetting to anybody that, if you live there, I would think. The other thing is the bottom line is the plan development, and as you all know, that the main criteria is to allow for flexibility in the zoning, which we can change some things around a little bit, where the result will be a higher quality development. So we can do some things, but at the end of the result, it's going to be better. But when we have absolutely, in some cases, hardly any buffering between the existing property, residential property, it's just wrong. And you all know it's wrong, so let your conscience be your guide. One of the things that's really disturbing, and it has happened before you guys, is that the county engineer is saying you have to comply with their thoroughfare plan. And the thoroughfare plan is just something that was dreamt up years ago to increase the right-of-way. If it's 60 foot, I think that's what this is up here on Blue Rock. And now they make it 100 feet, 20 feet on either side of the road, which then, folks trying to develop this site, they have zero, they can't put any buffering between Blue Rock Road and their parking lot, that's terrible when you can't do that. It looks terrible. We all know it looks terrible. So, but it's the county engineer saying you have to comply with the thoroughfare plan. Well, that's the confiscation of their property. And it's been tested in court a whole bunch of times. It's against constitutional. You can't do that unless you compensate them. And it's obvious they're not doing that. I'm sure that the legal counsel confirmed that. And then when I stopped up here to zoning today and talked to them, they said, well, they'll hold up their permits. Well, that also has been tested in court. Can't do it. So I guess my question is, unless the property owner has made some kind of deal with the county commissioner and said, I'm going to sell you this, or gave it to them, there's no legal means that they can say, you got to comply with our thoroughfare plan. There's nothing in the law that says you have to do that. You have to be constant. Their property line currently right now goes to the edge of the road, or the right-of-way, 60 foot wide. Now they're increasing that by 20 feet. Well, that 20 feet of property belongs to the applicant, to the folks at White Oak Center, and they should be allowed to do what they want to do, and especially in their case, with their bushes and things that they have, they can make it beautiful along there, and it needs a little help. We all know that. But to say that the engineer can stop all this, or they don't have to do it, I question all that. I just really do. And then the other parts of it that are right in somebody's backyard or right next to them within 10 feet of their property line, residential, is plain wrong. You guys need to fix that. You wouldn't want it yourself. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wanted to speak specifically to this issue tonight? With that, we will, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second?
Mr. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Aye.
Aye.
And Jenna will be reading the conditions that were set forth in the zoning commission hearing and giving her recommendation after this. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Reinhardt, that'll occur now as part of this. Yes.
Thank you. I will go ahead and jump ahead. I was going to lay out the site plan for you, but I will jump ahead to the conditions that were recommended from the Zoning Commission at their August 18th meeting. So the recommendation was for approval with 7 conditions and 3 variances. Conditions included that the applicant must submit a site plan demonstrating that the 15% open space requirement has been met. Hermes Drive shall be paved. Any proposed parking areas within the 15-foot streetscape buffer yard along Hanley Road must be removed, or a revocable agreement letter must be provided by the Hamilton County Engineer's Office. Streetscape buffer yard and landscaping along the Hanley Road street frontage must meet the requirements of section 14.5.1 of the zoning resolution. Condition 5 is that the applicant must provide the required landscape plantings or an equivalent off-site buffer along the northern half of the western property boundary. Condition 6, that the applicant must satisfy any requirements of the Hamilton County engineer, such as right-of-way dedication and traffic impact analysis report. And condition 7, zoning staff and the applicant work on the details of the sidewalks for the payment in lieu of program. I do have one note on that once we go through the 3 variances. First variance is that the northern entrance of the site to Blue Rock Road shall be permitted to remain 40 feet from the intersection of Blue Rock Road and Hanley Road, where a 50-foot separation is required. Variance 2, that the site shall be permitted a streetscape buffer yard of 0 feet along Blue Rock Road, where a streetscape buffer of 15 feet is required, and shall be permitted no planting or landscaping where planting and landscaping is required within the streetscape boundary buffer. And third variance of that the site shall be permitted with the current buffer yard, where a 30-foot buffer yard is required along the boundary of the adjacent residential lot on Hanley Road. Staff has been working with the applicant since the August 18th Zoning Commission meeting, and per condition number 7, the applicant has filed an application for sidewalk waiver and is committed to pay $6,760 as a payment in lieu of sidewalks for a length of 325 feet of sidewalk along the south side of Hanley Road.
And if I'm correct, the residences that are to the west are actually pretty far back from this new development.
There's a hillside there too.
Most of those houses are pretty far up the hill.
There's no, is there action on this? I'm sorry, it's not.
There's a resolution in your packet.
I'll move to approve with the conditions and the variances.
Second?
Mr. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Aye.
Is that all in the public hearing section of that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we're on to citizens' address.
Yes, Ms. Reinhardt, this evening, those that signed in to address the board, I did place a copy of the public participation policy as part of the sign-in form. So if you'd like for me to read that policy, I'd be glad to. The Colerain Township Board of Trustees welcomes public input in its deliberations and recognizes both the importance of public comment on issues before the board and members of the community expressing their views on matters of interest to Colerain Township. The Board of Trustees is committed to conducting its meetings in a civil, orderly, efficient, and productive manner designed to allow the board's regular agenda to be completed in a reasonable period of time and for a fair and adequate opportunity for public input to be considered. Consequently, public participation at board meetings will be governed by the following principles. Public participation at board meetings is limited to public comment portion of the meeting as indicated in the agenda. All other items during a board meeting, the audience will not be recognized by the board unless specifically requested to do so by the president of the board or the presiding officer. Persons wishing to address the board must be physically present and prior to the beginning of the meeting complete a public comment form by registering their name, address, and topic. Each person addressing the board is limited to 5 minutes. Persons addressing the board are expected to observe a level of civility and decorum appropriate for a public meeting and refrain from vulgar, profane, repetitive, or harassing remarks or personal attacks against any person. The president of the board or presiding officer may terminate any presentation deemed not to adhere to these standards.
And just one change that is not exactly spelled out here is, I know we were having some problems last time starting the clock. We have determined that from now on, if you ask us a question that you want a specific answer to, we will not stop the clock. So if you want to make a 5-minute statement, you can make a 5-minute statement. If you want to ask 5 questions and want 5 answers, we're not stopping the clock anymore because it's not fair when we stop it for some and we forget with others. So we're just going straight through, and that's how that's going to work. So it applies the same to everybody. So first up tonight, we have Mr. Fielday.
Last meeting, my name is Bernie Fielday, I live in Colerain Township. Last meeting I was here, I asked for the legal statutory authority to take township money, taxpayer money to support the Chamber of Commerce. And at that meeting, the attorney couldn't remember. I hope that this meeting he has remembered so he can give me that statutory authority. The thing that's kind of bothersome to me is here recently we've had a couple of road projects that we've let out. One of them was for $400,000 and another one was for $300,000. One of them was for, I guess, the township money, and then the other was, I guess, block grant money. But the two of them totaled together was $700,000 round figures. And I think you're going to approve the one tonight for $300,000, the community block grants. But the first one was for $400,000. There was only 2 bidders, and there again it was put in the Northwest Press, which I personally came up and saw Mr. Rowan when we did the corner, and the bids were way out of line. And I said, "Gee, you can't just put it in Northwest Press." And I gave him a lot of heads up on how to bid the job, and it was like over $600,000, my understanding, when they first bid it, and then it came in under 500, is my understanding. But we picked up about $100,000 just by bidding it correctly. So now we do the same thing now with our roads, and we put it at Northwest Press. There's 2 bidders. $400,000, and I don't know on the second one, you're going to approve tonight how many bidders there was, but the one that came in second on the first bid came in first on this bid. It smells. That's one thing I'll say. It just smells. The other part of that, though, why wouldn't you put it where you get the most exposure? There's different things, different areas, or I mentioned to Mr. Rowan how to bid the job in various. There's areas, there are companies out there that you let them know you got this job, and there's people that subscribe to that, and they want to be able to look at that, and you get good pricing. So the illustration was the corner. We saved at least $100,000, and we just had a $400,000 job and a $300,000 job bid separately. We could have put them together. One of them was community block grant, the other one was our money, and maybe you couldn't have done that as per se, but you could have said, here's this job and here's this job, and if you get them both, what's your price? I guarantee you, as a business guy, I know that you would have got a better price than the two standalone prices. So I guess when I keep hearing we don't have any money, we can't maintain the parks, and we don't even know how to bid a job. And I'm just passing it on that you guys up there have a responsibility to make sure it's done right. And what's happening isn't being done right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bernie. I have.
But I would like to know the statutory authority of, it gives you the statutory authority for the chamber. Do you have that tonight, or do I have to still wait?
I can talk to you later. I mean, I don't want to take away from.
Well, I had time up there, sir.
All right, well, let me say this. I did not say in the last meeting that I did not remember. The statutory.
It's so simple, pull it up on the thing.
Go ahead and watch the film. I did not say that in the last meeting. Second, my obligation to give legal advice is to the board.
I understand it. I just asked a question to the board, and what is the statutory authority?
And the authority is in both the Ohio Constitution and in limited home rule. And so I will tell you that, but it's not going to be my normal procedure to answer questions in the public like this, because if I do, I'm waiving the attorney-client privilege that I have with the board. But since that question has been asked and you made a misstatement about whether I remembered it or not, I thought I ought to make that clear. But as a rule, I cannot give you legal advice in an open setting because I waive my attorney-client relationship with the board if I do that.
What I just said was the board. What is the answer? What's your statutory authority to give Township money to the Chamber of Commerce? What is the law?
Answer your question. The Constitution.
No, I don't talk to him, same as I'm not allowed to talk to him, so he don't talk to me. I'm asking you guys.
What just happened?
Excuse me?
That wasn't a conversation.
Well, what is it?
What just happened? You just talked to him. He just gave you the answer.
He talked. I just asked you guys on the front end, what is the statutory authority?
Do
you have it or not?
We are a home
yes
rule,
or no?
We are a home rule township. We're permitted to do that.
That gives you some rights. If it isn't,
You don't know what you're talking about.
oh yeah, I do too. So anyway, so you don't have it, so thank you very much.
That's not correct.
Mr. Parsons?
Good evening. Want to come back and comment on the trash contract again tonight. I'll try and make it brief, obviously, timer. I remember when this township functioned out of a trailer over behind the school. We've come a long way. And actually, I remember when you took the authority to have governance over your own zoning. And that was a little bit of a struggle. I remember meeting with Steve Shabbat, Guy Guckenberger, when they were county commissioners, to help further that process. And, you demonstrate that you're right proud of your zoning authority, and rightfully so. But if this contract here in any way goes towards Rumpke, that's a complete disrespect to your zoning authority, the ensuing battle coming out of that, your township residents. It's just counter to everything. At least take a break on it, postpone the vote, let the word get out there a little bit more. I hear the Northwest Press touted as Colerain Township House organ. Well, that's all well and good. I read that as much as I can. But, it's an interesting thing about notifications out of this township regarding important meetings. They have a tendency to come out after the fact. So, there are a lot of issues involved here, and the numbers sound real good. Okay, $12, in fact, you're only saving a couple bucks, really. You're saving a couple bucks. You're hauling every bit of trash in a 3-township area into one location here that you really are losing control over. If we have authority here in this township to zoning, or to regulating, well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if we do or not. But until we find out, you're going to go ahead and you're going to hand him the whole pie? I don't, from this standpoint, see how this vote could go any other way than deny this contract. And if it does, then something is greatly amiss. And from a taxpayer standpoint, Rumpke has been a comedy of paperwork and acquiescence over the decades. The dump is around Rumpke because he petitioned to put 75 more feet on it some 30, 40 years ago, and there was opposition to that, and it looked like he was shut down. And would you know it, lo and behold, here was his post-dated paperwork on that found behind a file drawer in the county building. I mean, that's just beautiful. So, that's why we have 75 more feet on that thing today, and it's jokingly known around the country as Mount Rumpke. I mean, right there's a questionable transaction. Paperwork shows up. That particular document shows up behind a file cabinet. At the time it was ludicrous. Okay, so here's a repercussion of that. Okay, that's fine. Now he's coming up and he's not going to respect the township zoning. He doesn't have any respect for the township. I'm going to bleed your general fund. I got more money than they do. I'm going to win. And, and you sit here and you go, well, he'll beat us at our zoning. But we're going to give him this contract, this sweetheart contract, to take all the garbage from now a two county area. Now we're out into Butler County. And then, actually the end run on this is the garbage really is nothing. That's a non-issue. What you're striving for here is regionalism. Once we have this trash authority, then we're going to come back and we're going to have a billing authority. Then all of a sudden, hey, we've got all these regional assets going here. We need to incorporate. I mean, it really, I'm not for that. I remember when, like I said before, opened out with it, you operated out of a trailer over behind the school. And you know what, if we have such fiscal desire here, then let's move it all back in the trailer and sell the real estate. I mean, that seems to be the business model anymore. Hey, let's buy up a thriving company and liquidate the real estate to enhance the bottom line. Well, if we can't make it work around here, then let's sell the real estate, move back into the trailer, give it all to Rumpke, encourage him come this way, to change your own zoning over here to encourage him to put a big toe just this way and just keep back billing it. Because, from shenanigans 30 years ago, here's what we've got.
Mr. Reinhardt, time's expired.
The deciding point tonight, whether what you're going to have in the future is just an abysmal mess, or you're going to put some brakes on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Topler? I think it was Topler, yes.
Well, that's a pretty rough act to follow, I think. Thank you guys for your service and the police and fire and everybody, quite frankly. And I'm pretty tame, I guess, comparatively. But I think my biggest problem with this is that my understanding is you guys are Republicans and you're taking away people's rights. And it sounds more like a Democrat than a Republican doing that. And it just bothers me a little bit when people take away my rights, okay? For $1.28 a month. I mean, that's when we get right down to it, it's $1.28 a month. And the problem I've got is that there's a lot of things we're giving away. I got to coordinate how to buy furniture now because I can only put out one mattress a month, and then next month I can put out my box spring. I mean, it seems a little silly. The other thing is, what about missed service? I mean, if there's a private drive and people can't get down the private drive, do we still pay that month? How's that work? Why am I only allowed to change it once a year? And again, it just seems like we've wasted an awful lot of resources in this township for saving the people $1.28 a month. And I mean, I've got people, I have some rental property, and I've got people that basically recycle everything or they compost it. And now they're going to be expected to pay for waste services that essentially they're not using. So, I mean, think about that. It's not environmentally friendly in some cases. It's going to cost me an extra $81 a month. because people are saying, oh, well, you just raise the rents. Well, if I could just raise the rents, I'd raise them now. I mean, that's, you can only do so much with what you got. I mean, and I know to a lot of people here that doesn't seem like a lot of money, but that's almost $1,000 a year to me. That's $1,300 before taxes, and that's quite a bit of money when I've got 3 girls in college. So, I mean, essentially, you're raising the cost of living in Colerain Township. It's kind of a bite out of the middle class, because all these things, the houses that I rent are brick 3-bedroom ranches with a 2-car garage on an acre, so they're good size. I mean, one of the reasons I buy properties on septic systems is because we can't afford the water bills. So, and a lot of people can't. I mean, a lot of people ask me if I take Section 8, and I don't, and I'm pretty proud of that because I live here. And you start asking yourself, how much longer can you do this and not take Section 8, because they do pay more money. So, the other thing is that I'm afraid what's going to happen is this the backdoor end run into collecting trash fines like the city of Cincinnati just pulled out, where if all my trash isn't in the can, you can come along and fine me $200. The other thing is, what about eviction set-outs? I mean, what am I supposed to do with the people's stuff that they leave behind? There's no provision for that. And I guess who's eligible for the snowbird discount? Because again, I've got people that, like I said, compost and recycle just about everything. So anyhow, I just want you guys, I know that you're probably going to go ahead and approve the contract because it's already been done in Springfield and Ross Township, and I kind of expect that. But you got to kind of wonder, some of this stuff, when I explain it to people I've talked to about it, they raise their eyebrows a little bit and question if that sounded quite right. And maybe I don't understand it correctly. And if I don't, then I'd appreciate you clarifying it for me. I got a minute left.
The $1.28 figure, Roanne, can you go ahead and go through the economics too about what the bid represented versus current pricing?
Yes, for unlimited collection, including recycling, the current rate is $20.72.
That's right there.
The 2016 contract rate is $16.20, so it's a monthly savings of $4.52 if you recycle. Now, obviously, if you're just subscribing to garbage and not recycling, that savings is $1.28. So it's the recycling piece that's generating the greater amount of savings.
No disrespect, but you got a lot of people here that probably make a decent wage, and I appreciate and respect that, but it seems like that we've wasted more than that $1.28 on just putting this contract together. You know what I mean? So, and I appreciate your time. I hope you don't approve it. I mean, I've already got Rumpke. That sounds silly, so why am I here? But it's because you're taking my rights away to choose who I want. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tobler. And I appreciate that. I didn't think about the eviction piece of it. That's something I've not heard before, so thank you for...
And mattresses and whatnot, too, and buying furniture and different things like that.
I know last meeting, Mr. Lohr, is Mr. Lohr here? I don't see him. Last meeting, Mr. Lohr brought up the private drive part of it, so thank you for that.
I want you to think about it. I appreciate it.
I don't think this says Ritter. Is it Ryder? George Ryder? Did I say that correctly, sir? Okay.
Good evening. Colerain Township is funded by who? Where do you guys get your money from?
You.
Huh?
You.
Us. Okay, how's come I live in Hamilton County, but we never see any county sheriffs in our district anymore? I see one Colerain cop every 3 days. I live in Northbrook. Any of you people live in Northbrook? That's what I thought. It's getting so bad that we now have gangs in our district. They advertise it all over the place. We got so many houses that are abandoned. I thought we tore down these houses. Whatever happened to that?
That program, the funding ended for that. It was a state program.
Okay, I got a house that's right across the street from where I live, 2759 Niagara. It hasn't been worked on in over a year. The grass this high. And the last 5 years, the value of my house went from 105,000 down to 62 due to the fact that there is so much Section 8 moving in over there. Did they have a limit of what they're allowed to have in our district?
There's supposed to be a quota and a.
Well, they need to check that out. Have somebody go around. I mean, it's getting bad. And the empty houses are getting really, there's 3 on Niagara. They finally cut the grass, but these gangs went around and drew their numbers all over it and everything. And Laura Linda, the other last week, had 10 cars bashed her windows in. I don't know if street lights will help, but it's getting to the point where we need Hamilton County back, or somebody to come back and help patrol the area. One Colerain cop every 3 days is bad. And I understand that when they separated, our taxes went up a little bit to help pay for more authority or more troops, or I never see them. I see one, like I said, every 3 days. And Colerain's a pretty big place, especially Northbrook. I mean, that's where all the trouble's starting to be at. We're getting to be the point where it's a bad place to live. And my street from Gibraltar to Pippin Road is a drag strip. Some of these cars are going 70 mile an hour up and down our streets because there's no stop sign between Gibraltar and Pippin Road. There's better than a quarter mile, and I mean they're flying down through there. One of these days, a kid's going to get tagged getting off a school bus. I even see cars trying to go around the school buses because they're tired of waiting. But I just want to know what happened with Hamilton County that they don't come over anymore.
Well, what happened with Hamilton County is they wanted to charge us a lot more money for the deputies that we couldn't pay. And when we couldn't pay it, they pulled their deputies. Maybe you should give them a phone call then, or you as a taxpayer.
It's Hamilton County that we live in.
We can't control them. They chose to not patrol here. We never said leave. We never said you can't patrol here. We never said any of those things. We just said we can't afford to.
So I live in a Hamilton County, but I can't get no sheriff patrol.
I think it's ridiculous too, but I can't make them patrol here.
Well, who we see about trying to get this
Call Sheriff Neal and have a discussion with the sheriff.
Yeah, well, like I said, one Colerain cop every 3 days in Northbrook area alone. I don't know about the other parts, but Northbrook alone is not enough. We need.
Have you been calling these incidents into the police?
Oh, yes, they know me by my first name. I mean, I don't put up with it. I call Colerain, tell them to come out here and do whatever it's got to be done. But the houses across the street, it's getting bad. A lot of houses. They're just taking the property value down to nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Mr. McVeigh?
Thank you. I have a question about the roads tonight. Excuse me. We are going to fund, I think, tonight some road work, and I just had a question about that. And I think you did fund something on Phil Knoll. My question is, there are several properties who, in your own assessments, have road quality that's equal to or poorer than the roads that you're now funding. So my question is, how do you decide which roads to repave?
That is generally up to Mr. Lang, who is not here tonight. I don't know, Frank, if you could answer that or not, because I know you're filling in for him tonight.
I can get the question. I prefer to convey that to Tim Lang. I mean, from my experiences, the micropaver program.
That's fine. Then let me just go on here with my time. President Reinhardt, do you know, does the township have a strategy for road improvement? Yes or no?
Yes.
It does? Is this something that couldn't be published or shared?
I don't know if it's all written down. That Frank's saying yes, so yes.
So we can have it posted or something, and so I don't have to request it with an open records request?
I think it was already sent to you, Mr. McVeigh.
The road strategy?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think I got it. Maybe you ought to try to send it again.
Thought I was copied on that.
If you would, that'd be helpful. I mean, I'd like to see it. The thing I was asking and thinking about as well, I don't know if you have done any benchmarking with other areas around what they're doing. For example, if you go to Butler County, you'll see that they have repaved a lot of roads with asphalt and with chip and seal. And their average cost for asphalt is about $150,000 a mile. Now, if you look at what we're doing off of Crest, where you're getting about 2,000 feet for $300,000, your price tag is approaching $800,000 a mile for that small section. So there's something that I think that needs to be looked at. I mean, if you in fact were to use the same approach that you use in Butler County, those roads might be repaved for something less than $100,000. So we may have a $200,000 premium for that section of roads. Now, I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the bid process that was referred to previously. Maybe we don't have a broad enough circle of people who are competing. But I just know if you look to Butler County, they paved something like 30 miles of road last year with asphalt for $150,000 a mile. They paved 15 miles up with chip and seal for $45,000 a mile. We have a lot of roads in this township that need to be repaired, as you well know. And if we're going to end up spending, which our benchmark says, anywhere between $800,000 and $1.5 million a mile, we're never going to get this work done. We won't be able to afford it. Even there is some statements made by the administrator that we'd have to put some millage on the ballot and have to vote for another $1.5 million or 2 mils. That cannot even fund the improvement of the roads that we have that fall into our poorest categories. So there's something about the strategy, and that's why I asked the question, do we have a strategy? And have we benchmarked? There are people who are putting down roads for $150,000 to $200,000 a mile, the city of Cincinnati, all of Butler County. Why does Colerain Township pay close to, if you look at what's going on in Crest, $800,000 a mile? We've just heard a lot of discussion around how short we are of funds in this township. I think we have to look closely at how we're approaching our road work and have a strategy that mirrors what other people are doing. They are finding ways to stretch their dollars with cut and seal kind of road repair and with asphalt. So I'd ask you to think about it. And I'd ask that maybe before you vote tonight, you think about there is an opportunity to, if you do what is done in Butler County, to save up to a couple $100,000 in this one bid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh. Mr. Pace? Mr. Pace, after the meeting, if you can come up and put your address on, because we have to verify that you are a resident. I know, but I'm just saying there's a couple people who didn't put their address.
I assure you I'm a resident.
That's why we don't make you say it out
No,
loud
that's
for security, but
I'll give you whatever you need.
She needs it for the record, so.
That's fine. My name is Garrett Pace. I am a township resident. I had a few things that I wanted to address. I'd like to get an update on the Skyline Community Center to see if we have received any bids or any type of, have we received any updates on it? Just give anything.
We can answer it after you're done.
Okay, that's great. This is at Chief Denny. I would like to see maybe something for Northbrook similar to what we're doing with Colerain or Skyline Acres. I think Northbrook has similar demographics as far as the senior citizen population merging with the, I just bought my first house people. Also, the Ohio checkbook is going to be addressed later. I already spoke to Ms. Harlow about that. And also the zoning. What is going to be done to create stability in our zoning department? I mean, Mr. Mills left for a better job in Covington. Ms. Randall obviously left for a better job in Kent County. I just want to know what support we're going to be giving her so that she can be successful in this position. Other than that, thank you for your time, and I'll have your answers.
Thank you. Frank, you want to answer, or Jim, either one about Skyline?
Sure. We have Cindy Metz as our realtor for Skyline. We've had a lot of churches look at Skyline to move in, but the getting a loan when you're a church, I guess, is more challenging than I have understood. But if you talk to the realtors from the Bergman Group, there's been a lot of interest in it. But when it comes time to get a loan, it's been very challenging at best.
Have we thought about lowering the price point for that?
We have thought about it.
Okay. I know it's kind of high for the area. So.
Well, we did have it appraised, and in the state of Ohio, when you're selling public property, you got to be very cognizant of your appraised value. You don't want to sell it because everybody in here would say, "Why are you selling something below appraised value?" So we got to work within those parameters.
And then the zoning.
Yes, I'd like to defer my comments to the recommendation I'm going to make tonight on the staffing. I'll kind of let you know what's going on and what the plans are.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Sir, Mr. Insco, you also need to see Ms. Harlow after the meeting and fill out your address, please.
Of course. All right, I'd appreciate it if you don't take a recess to prevent me from talking this time. The whole point to having trustees is to represent the residents as a whole. You can't tell me that 60,000 residents want you three to allow the highest paid township employee to lavishly take our money. Mr. Rowan makes $130,000 a year, and you've given him 2 raises. Meanwhile, our employees, who are out there every day doing the jobs that you guys don't want to do, have been on a pay freeze. You can't possibly wonder why employees resent you. It gets worse. Rowan was a hired gun. He was hired to get rid of all of our long-term employees, because in theory, we could hire 2 people for what we were paying some of these long-term employees. Instead, we hire our friends for more than the previous position paid. I would love to know how much the payroll has gone up since we've started hiring his friends. During Mr. Rowan's tenure, the township has given him a township car, paid for his gas, insurance, and even rental cars, and he doesn't even live in Colerain. I know 16-year-old kids who pay for their own gas, car, insurance, yet your friend, the highest paid employee in the township, makes us pay for his. I've called our neighboring communities, administrators, current and former trustees, and I asked about these receipts. They all said Rohan is literally stealing from us and asked why he hasn't been fired. The simple answer is because he's your friend. There's no excuse for this or these receipts. I have receipts from the township credit card proving you made us pay for your trips to the casino, Disney, Vegas, New York City, and all your food ranging from 99-cent coffee to creme brulee. If we can't afford our roads, mowing our parks, how can we afford to be wined and dined by the highest employee or the highest paid employee? If you guys don't want to take care of what's considered theft in any other community, November 3rd, I'll do it for you. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to start off with saying that while we have worked here for 4 years, Mr. Rowan has never been to New York City in the last 4 years. So I'm not sure where you're getting that from, but he's not been to New York in 4 years. So the 4 years that I've been here. We hired Mr. Rowan. If you want to call him a hired gun, sure. You know why? Because nothing was going on in this township when I got elected. Nothing. That is why we got rid of all the dead weight, and I'll call it that, dead weight. And every person that's sitting here today is performing, and performing with less pay and doing a ton more than anybody that was here.
I don't believe they're performing under less pay. I think every one of them are.
There are people here performing under less pay than what was being paid before, and they're doing an outstanding and tremendous job. And this is the best team we've had in 4 years. So that is why Mr. Rowan was hired, was to come in, have a change in culture and a change in thought, because this township was stalled. And it is not now. We have gotten so much progress done in the last 4 years. If you don't believe that,
like
drive
roads,
up and
for
down
example,
Colerain Avenue. And the reason we go to places like Vegas, Mr. Birkenauer can speak to that better than I can. It's one of the largest places where they go and meet up with contractors, and they bring people here. It is a huge benefit to this township to send them there. And I don't know a company around that doesn't send its CEO and people of that nature to conferences and things of that nature to make contacts in the business world. So if you have a problem with that, then you don't understand how business runs.
Yeah, you're very incorrect on that. Have you ever heard of Skype, email?
I suggest you hand the receipts over to the chief of police
I've
right
got
now.
all the I'll get you all of them so I can give you all of them. Well, it's not theft because you allow him. You allow him. That's the problem. Any other community, literally, go around, ask our neighbors. Well, then what is it? What is it? Can we afford to mow our parks? Can we afford to pave our township roads?
No.
There you go. So why do we have money to send him on trips? We don't. We don't have money. It's thousands of dollars.
And we need
Literally
millions
thousands.
of dollars to pave the roads. Millions of dollars.
Okay. Well, we can start by saving thousands with a simple fix. You're the highest paid employee. Stop wasting our money.
And he's worth every penny.
That's debatable. You need me to sign in, Heather?
We can do it after the meeting. But he's not going to stay till the end of the meeting. He has to be somewhere else. I believe that is everyone that is signed in tonight. We are going to go to administrative reports.
Start with Mr. Cook.
Good evening. I'd like to report, first of all, on a couple of accomplishments by our fire department employees. First of all, firefighter Ron Stanger has been appointed as a communications manager with the Hamilton County Urban Search and Rescue Task Force. Ron will be assisting with communications and emergency scene management of the team. Ron was selected as a result of his demonstrated leadership and past participation with the team. Secondly, Captain Will Mueller has been named our 2015 Firefighter of the Year for his work, contributions, and collaborative efforts in the community and providing departmental oversight of our emergency medical services. Lastly, myself, I've been asked to serve on the University of Cincinnati's Community Paramedicine Curriculum Advisory Committee. I'm one of 4 other regional fire chiefs that will apply our workforce and community-related experience to the program's curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Just a few items. Our criminal investigative unit just completed a 2-week jury trial for a homicide that occurred in Northbrook on Niagara Street. I got an email from the prosecutor who handled that case, Katie Burrows. I'd like to, Katie Bribemore, and be able to read that email to the board. Your guys deserve all the credit. They did an amazing job putting the case together, from their handling of the scene to recorded witness interviews and photo lineups to search warrants, trying to connect every bit of evidence to our defendant. They were extremely patient with all the defense continuances. Detective Deaton testified well on the motion to suppress in April, and they met tirelessly with our team meetings to prepare for trial, and with the family, who started off pretty hostile, but in the end ended up hugging and complimenting us. Finally, I can't say enough about how they handled themselves during trial. They were prepared, willing to help me with anything, and the defense gave us alibi information the second day of trial, and we were able to quickly blow that out of the water with documentation and witnesses. They testified in a friendly manner, very professional, and the jury couldn't say enough about how they loved all the officers who were called to the stand. Detective Hustle, Sergeant Hustle, also helped out. He didn't testify, but he did help prepare the case. Denny Deaton, whose father was terminally ill, did a fantastic job as well, and he went above and beyond what was needed to win that case. So they have somebody who deals with this on an everyday basis, and every police department in Hamilton County to ever say those words makes us very proud, I think.
Well, and in my day job, I saw them there every day, so I always got to say hi to them and make sure they were doing good that day, and that Katie was taking very good care of them as well. That was no easy trial. The parts that I saw were very interesting. For those of you who know Clyde Bennett, I have a good relationship with Mr. Bennett. He was Miss Tracy Hunter's attorney, if that sparks any memories for any of you who've watched TV lately. He was a defense attorney on this. So if you think these guys had an easy game with this one, it was not, because Clyde knows his stuff. So I definitely was very proud when I got this message that they did such a good job, and pass that along to the guys for me if you want.
Thank you. Another item, our school resource officers are developing a new juvenile diversion program. They entitled it Reality. They discovered when they looked at their arrests in both the high schools that about 70% were first-time offenders. Instead of introducing them to the juvenile justice system and hurting their chances for college degrees or jobs in the future, they look for another way. They've developed a 4.5-hour course where the coroner, a rehabilitated drug addict, and will actually take them down to the jail to try to give them a glimpse of what path they're headed down and maybe hopefully get them on the right course. They've not got everything all worked out yet as far as transportation, but we should get that rolling out probably in a month or two to get them down there. I think it's nice. It shows that our officers are starting to use some of this out-of-the-box thinking that the leadership's been doing as well, so it's neat to see that. We received a Department of Justice grant for 11 bulletproof vests for our officers. That's a significant savings for us, around $4,000 to $5,000 that would have cost us to exchange vests that were either expired or for officers coming in that needed vests. And this Thursday, the Colerain Township Business Association is going to honor a policeman and a fireman for Officer of the Year. This year, we've selected Jamie Penley as our recipient. Instead of looking at one particular event, we looked at his efforts over 14 years and his willingness to step forward. And Jamie volunteers more than I think he works for the township, so he's been a fantastic employee. Thank you.
There's a thing this weekend, isn't there?
Yeah. There's a picnic on Sunday at Skyline Community Park from 1 to 3. We have results from the survey that we conducted during our canvass of the neighborhood.
And that's a neighborhood get to meet your cops.
We have officers there, firefighters, everybody's going to be there, and
yes,
it'll be a good time. Thank you.
No report at this time.
I do. I have two, we're talking accomplishments. We have two, a firefighter as well as a police officer. Detective Michael Stockmeyer just completed the requirements for his Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Cincinnati. And Captain Darian Edwards just completed the Executive Fire Officer program for the National Fire Academy. Just a little bit of a highlight, the National Fire Academy EFO program is a 4-year educational commitment requiring a bachelor's degree just for consideration to participate. And Darren just completed that 4-year process and was named, was provided the title of Executive Fire Officer through the National Fire Academy. Well, that made me, it's been since 2012 since I've provided the board some information that just lets people know where those educational achievements are. We have 231 total firefighters, police officers, and reserve members of our two departments. In that, we have 37 associate's degrees, 55 bachelor's degrees, 10 master's degrees, and 1 current member seeking a PhD. We have 9 firefighters currently attending the Union Institute. Just for an example, they've taken 44 courses in their time in the class. They've got 42 A's out of those 44 classes. We have 6 graduates of the National Fire Academy, 2 graduates of the FBI National Academy from the Police Department, 4 Ohio fire executives, 2 graduates of the Northwestern Staff Command, and 2 graduates of the Certified Law Enforcement Executive Program. And finally, we have, and not to say the least, we have 107 paramedics have completed the strenuous and extremely difficult process of reaching that level of paramedic. And so I think as we may take it for granted what truly that paramedic means until you're the one that receives the other end of that service. So the level of training and the desire to continue to educate is evident through the men and women who are serving us, and I think that lends to the professionalization of what we do. So we're certainly proud, and I always like to provide the board information on our accomplishments. So Michael and Darren definitely stood out, but it's a good thing for the chiefs and I to benchmark against. Secondly, starting last Friday, all police officers on duty began carrying the nasal Narcan injector kits. They're available not only with the police officers who are working, but at our CRCs, Northgate stations, things of that nature where it's also available. We have an outfit at our headquarters, because we know we've had people come to the door of the police station seeking aid in the event of an overdose, so we can provide that life-saving aid. And I have to give props to Captain Will Mueller. It's Captain Will Mueller night, but he took the time to help us in the education of our police officers to demonstrate the practicalness and the practical side of using the Narcan, as well as making sure the kits that these men and women are carrying has all the tools to keep them safe, as well as providing the life-saving drugs. So, and as another piece, from our study, it looks like Cincinnati and Claremont County Sheriff's Office are the only agencies that are carrying the nasal Narcan. And again, we know the expanse of Colerain Township, 46 square miles in size. If that police officer can be there and save a life, that's the ultimate need. But you also know of a lot of the other efforts that we're making to reduce the impact of overdoses in the township, and it just so happened that Captain Mueller put out the August statistics. Just a number. Monthly average of opiate-related overdoses from January to April, we are averaging 17 overdose calls a month, with a high of 32 in the month of March. The monthly average of opioid-related overdoses from May to August, 12. So we went down 5 per month. That's a reduction of 34.5% since the first 4 months of the year. Total number of opiate-related overdoses from January to April, 67. From May to August, 48, again, a 33% reduction in the number of overdoses in Colerain Township. This also represents a 33% decrease in our exposure of our first responders to patients at an increased risk of hepatitis B or C. And we're continuing to monitor those numbers, but again, with the proactive work that our police officers and our firefighters have been doing, our QRT response, our first month of activity, showed a 50% entering into treatment of follow-up contacts with our police officer, our paramedic, and our addictive services counselor. So our proactive efforts, we believe, again, it's just a month, but you've got to start somewhere. And if we're reducing the overdoses, we're reducing the downstream impact that negatively impact our neighborhoods, crime, the run volume, everything that goes along with that cost of providing that service. So again, we appreciate the opportunity to think differently and to provide the service to take care of our community. That's all I have.
On to new business. Back to Dan.
Okay.
Actually, it's trustee reports, Ms. Reinhardt. Trustee reports next.
Oh, I'm sorry. I crossed through that. You go first.
I'll be brief. I did want to, a month and some days later, congratulate our team on the Taste of Colerain. I don't think we got the opportunity to recognize everybody involved in that. It was a successful event, as it always is. I do think it's time, based upon the fact that we've kind of had the same model for the last 20-something years, that we look at maybe reinventing it a little bit, and we'll talk offline, but I encourage the team to consider some of the options we may have talked about, even including maybe bringing back the fireworks on the 4th, maybe making it more of a combined event on that day. But I didn't want to leave that a special event off of the radar, because it was a great event, and those that volunteered and contributed deserve to be commended. Most of those people, police and safety services and our administration, just gave their time, and they care about this community, so congratulations, thank you. I did want to point out one issue that came up with the man that just left, who takes it upon himself to leave after he drops a grenade, I guess. He's afraid to stand up to what he believes in, I believe. But what I think is important to consider in this township, and a lot of people have some problems with the way that we're doing business, and I understand that. We've got big shoulders. But when I got elected, and the board as a whole has decided that we run like a business, okay? We operate in a way that recognizes that we compete with other communities, for residents, for businesses. So when you take that model, you have to find talent that's willing to accept that challenge. And Mr. Rowan takes bullets from the general public at these meetings. He does, and he gets nasty emails. You got to have big shoulders. You got to be willing to innovate. And we've got a number of things. I mean, a leadership team here that's willing to step out and say, okay, heroin's a problem, and literally lead the region in stopping the heroin epidemic. I mean, who else has that kind of courage? And yeah, there'll be some people that complain about it, and I understand that, but that's the kind of community we live in. Our police and fire department that's willing to go the extra mile and have an outreach program to talk about race in our neighborhoods when other neighborhoods around the country are burning. That's courageous. Some people might not like it. It's too hard to talk about. But as long as I'm on this board, that's the kind of leadership we're going to have. And that's the kind of leadership I'm going to support. Mr. Rowan, Mr. Birkenhauer, Mr. Barbier, the rest of the team, they could be making a heck of a lot more. And I know that's a lot of money to most of us, to me, to everybody, but it's worth every penny. Ms. Reinhardt said that. So we've got this issue, like the garbage contract that's on the docket tonight. Okay, at least we're talking about it. You know, other communities might play it safe. Wherever you fall on this issue, our leadership team is directed to innovate, consider new options, because we have to. Otherwise, we go backwards. And there's a lot of problems in our community. There's no one else I would trust than this team to try to tackle this, and I think we're making a heck of a lot of progress. So, we can drop a grenade about receipts or, whatever we need to do to bring business into our community, that's how you do business. I think it's ridiculous that someone would allege that that's some kind of an improper thing. I mean, that's how business is done. That's how the community brings businesses in, because these developers want to be part of the community, and if it takes going to dinner with them for them to invest tens of millions of dollars in our community, create jobs, that's how it's played. and I'm okay with it. So, I know that everybody on this board has some frustration, and I got big shoulders. I will tell you from the outset, I believe in this leadership team. I believe in the direction we're going in, and I'm proud of our community.
As far as the heroin thing, a lot of people think that Narcan is not a good thing, that you bring back people who otherwise would be dead. Maybe they wanted to be that way. But every person that's brought back has a different perspective, has a new chance at life, and a new chance at making their life and the life around them better. And I think that's a worthwhile cause. And if we can get them back on track and being productive members of the society, then I'm all for it. As far as the outreach, specifically the rapid response team, in my day job, you have no idea, every case is heroin. It's not just having it or selling it, it's you overdosed and crashed. So you got OBIs, you've got traffic, you've got people who are so high that they're stealing from their own family. So you've got theft and receiving stolen property. I mean, you get people who get high and beat up other people. So then you get felonious assault and assault. I mean, you have people who are robbing people because they need the money for heroin. So literally every crime that you could name can be traced back to heroin, and many times it is. The cases I see come through arraignment are just, the heroin problem is ridiculous. And just in the 4 years I've been doing felony arraignments, the numbers have just skyrocketed. And I think I've mentioned before, it's gone from just getting busted buying heroin to you're dead in someone's front yard, and then you get charged too because you had heroin on you too. So I mean, it's literally, the transition of it even is disturbing. So I definitely am all for doing everything we can to turn this problem around here in our community. And you put a lot of labels on it that people don't like, whether it's needle exchange or halfway house, whatever it is, people don't like it, but at the same time, if we don't do something, it's not going to stop. So I'm very proud of that specific program at this point. As far as the zoning, one of the questions, I know Jim's going to address it, one of the reasons I think we keep losing people is because of just the number of nuisance complaints, the cutting the grass. I mean, I know for a while there, that's all Mr. Mills was doing, was handling grass complaints. Like, you can't even get to the actual zoning part of zoning because all we're doing is handling nuisance complaints, and we have something to address that. So that's one way we're going to help the zoning department, but that is one of the ways. And then on a much, much lighter note, congratulations to the Colerain Cardinals for beating St. X this weekend, and hopefully they will beat LaSalle this weekend. So take a dig at both of my partners here, but congratulations to Colerain.
The public will just scooch on over here.
Yeah.
Okay. First, I want to commend the Safety Department and Chief Malloy for his leadership for the initiatives we're doing on race relations and also on heroin. To echo some of the comments Mr. Gator said, it's just symptomatic of the innovation and the professionalism in this department that we're trying to attack the root cause of problems instead of just being proactive or reactive all the time. So, well done on that front. Congrats to Chief Cook for his appointment, and also to Officer Penley for Officer of the Year. Well deserved on both of those. And Mr. Barbier, can you give the public just a quick update on where we stand with the Rumpke trial, just procedurally, on what the next steps are and where we've come since the trial ended and that type of thing?
Sure. The trial was over on August 6th. After that, the judge set up a briefing schedule. This was just a trial to the court, and it regarded the constitutionality of the zoning and whether there was a taking of the property as a result of the zoning. All the evidence was placed of record. All the witnesses were called by August 6th. The trial lasted 11 days. After the trial was concluded, the judge asked us to file briefs. And since Rumpke is the plaintiff, Rumpke filed the first brief, and that was filed the Friday before last. Our brief is due a week from this Friday. So we're in the process of putting together our brief, which will be filed a week from this Friday. Then the plaintiffs will file a reply brief, and after that, the judge will consider all the evidence, all the exhibits, the law, the briefs, and make a decision. There's no real timeline for the judge to make the decision, but he's a very, very good judge, very well-respected judge. He'll give it due consideration, and we should probably get a decision, before the end of the year. But again, there's no real drop-dead date as to when we will get the decision.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all I had. I'll save my comments on the Waste District until it comes up in the agenda.
So now we're back to new business.
Thank you. I have 3 items for the board's approval, 3 donations. First of all, Ken Steedham, CEO of the Aegis Corporation, has donated 30 Raptor less lethal control devices for both Colerain Police and Fire. These devices have been in place since 2011 or 12 within the police department, and we've expanded that service for we initially utilized this tool as a response to special needs, autism responses, and a way to respond to them safely and folks of that need. But it's also a good crowd control device. It allows us to respond and keep the area safe and do it in a visible way that demonstrates to the people around it that this is a line. It's not just a little piece of yellow tape that says caution, but it allows our officers and our firefighters to make sure they can protect the scene appropriately. Mr. Steedham has been a great partner to the police department and the fire department. The value on these devices is over $3,000. We ask the board for the approval to accept it.
Motion to approve. Second. Aye.
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 Next, the fire department received a $50 donation from Ms. Quang J. Park, a Colerain Township resident. The police department actually received one too, but specifically she's expressing her appreciation for the service that our police and fire provided to her at her residence. She gave the fire department a $50 donation and asked for the board's approval.
So moved. Second. Aye.
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 And lastly, Ms. Park provided a $30 donation to the police department for that same service. Asked the board's approval.
So moved. Second. Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, the fire department has 3 action items for the board to consider tonight. The first one being a request authorization to hire 2 part-time firefighter emergency medical technicians at the basic level to fill vacant firefighter 2A positions. This will be effective September 13, 2015, at an hourly rate of $14.22. Each firefighter must successfully complete a 1-year probationary period. Both candidates have successfully completed all pre-employment testing and procedures. The candidates for hire are Darius D. Brown and Joshua Bryans.
Motion to approve. Second. Aye.
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 Okay, the second is a request authorization to hire 2 career firefighter emergency medical technician paramedics to fill vacant positions in accordance with the 2014 Memorandum of Understanding between the Township and the Career Firefighters Union. The 2 candidates are Douglas Rolfe and Alex Seamer. Each candidate is currently employed as a part-time firefighter paramedic with the department. The annual salary for the new hires is $43,907.76, or an hourly rate at $21.11 per hour. The promotion is effective October 3rd, 2015, and each firefighter paramedic must successfully complete a 1-year probationary period. Both candidates must successfully complete all applicable testing and procedures.
Motion to approve. Second. Aye.
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 Okay, and the last item, request authorization for a pay rate increase for our part-time fleet maintenance assistant, Don Schweer. Mr. Schweer has been with the department since April 2010. He has 45 years of automotive diesel experience. He's also performed as a lead instructor in the vocation. We're asking that his new rate of pay be $16 per hour effective September 13, 2015.
So moved. Second. Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Good evening. I have 4 items for the trustees' consideration this evening. The first is the 2015 road resurfacing contract. Recommend the board award the contract for the 2015 Community Development Funded Road Resurfacing Project in the amount of $304,493 to Alita Construction, who was the lowest bidder, meeting the specifications. The streets are Gravenhurst Crest to 372 Gravenhurst Drive and Bracebridge Drive from De Havilland to Gravenhurst Drive.
So moved. Second. Aye.
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 Second item is a road acceptance, and Request the board accept Hunters Ridge Lane and Hunters Creek Lane in the Hunters Ridge subdivision, and this is for Phase 1, Block A and B.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt? Aye. Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
And just as a note, with the acceptance of that road, we've added just under a mile of roads to the maintenance for the township roads. We're just about 113 and a third miles right now. We started at about 112.4 this year.
Frank, before we move on to the next thing, I am curious what you find out with regards to the points that Mr. McVeigh made on Butler County. And so if you have a chance to talk that through with Mr. Lang, just make sure to let me know.
I'll certainly, I've been here pretty long besides the guy sitting to my right. I do remember when I was in my 20s working in this job, and I think it was Patty Clancy, Keith Miller, and maybe Joe Walderman were trustees at the time, and Dennis Chapman was our superintendent. And I was told if we ever used chip and tar again in this township, we're going to be run out of this township. And I don't know what the negative effects of chip and tar were, but apparently at the time they said our residents severely disliked the associated maintenance with that and how it wears as well. And I just recall that as a young person in this position. So I think we did it years ago. I think we tried it.
So in other words, you could say one of the disparities then is, apples and oranges. In other words, the number that he's quoting per.
It was cheaper.
It's just a different approach.
Right.
So it's an apples and oranges type of comparison.
And I think that we had a plethora of complaints from our residents as a result of changing to chip and tar. And it was advocated by Dennis Chapman at the time. And I think we did it for a year or two, and they said, the previous trustees said, we'll never do that again because of the residents complaining.
It's worth looking into.
Sure.
Sure. I think on another note, I think the other thing would be worth looking into is to see if we can partner with Hamilton County Engineer. If we know ahead of time how much money we can allocate for roads, possibly get on their bid package. If they're bidding hundreds of miles of roads, it might give us an opportunity to get better pricing. Unfortunately, we haven't had a real direct plan on how to address roads. We've kind of haphazardly been throwing money at it every year. If we can come up with some sort of an approach that we know for the next couple of years what we're thinking about, then maybe we can work with Mr. Hubbard's office and be part of their bid package, and it might help us drive that cost down.
That's based upon our initial concern that we'd be sustainable. I don't think that that's anything negligent in that we haven't had a sustainable road funding source because of the Jet Z failing, et cetera. So I think we need to pivot maybe and consider Plan B, and that's a great start, I think.
Yeah, I think I just want to make a point. I think those are ideas that can really move the needle on getting more bang for our buck. But there's been some comments over the last couple meetings. Donating a 10 by 10 foot office to the chamber. And oh my God, we can't afford to do roads, but we can do that. I just think, and then complaining about a trip to Las Vegas to partner with developers to bring more business to the township. Those are all red herrings that have nothing to do with sustaining our roads long term. However, if we can do some things innovatively with joint bidding and the like, so be it. But, let's not confuse the point. Some of the things that are mentioned about, largesse are just red herrings in my opinion, and have no semblance to
Well, and they have a lot of
moving the needle.
They have a lot of projects going on in the township in the next year or two between Blue Rock and all of that type of stuff. Yeah. So that might work to our advantage, where they don't always have tons of stuff going on in the township.
The next item is a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement. We have 18 properties for this month's resolution for nuisance and abatement of uncontrolled vegetation or refuse and debris.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
The final item this evening is a resolution for the application for grant funds to the Ohio Public Works Commission. Because we don't have any money to match for the PWC grant, we've discussed with the Hamilton County Engineer's Office to partner with the Hamilton County Engineer to apply to repair 2 Hamilton County maintained streets in Colerain Township. The streets are East Miami River Road from Harrison Avenue to Thompson Road at $5 million, and Springdale Road from Colerain Avenue to Season Drive The resolution will appoint Jim Rowan, Colerain Township Administrator, as Chief Executive Officer, Heather Harlow as Chief Financial Officer, and Tim Lang, Colerain Township Director of Public Services, as the Project Manager. The cost of the projects would be divided equally between the Hamilton County Engineer and the Ohio Public Works Commission. Colerain Township would basically be a party to this, although we wouldn't be putting up any funding. And we have been successful because we're a large community in partnering with Hamilton County on these OPWC grants. And they've gotten some grants in the past by our partnership alone, and that's what this is this evening, not subjecting us to any monetary implications at this time.
Move to approve. Second.
Ms. Weinstein?
Aye.
Mr. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt? Aye. Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Reinhardt, members of the board, under my report, I'd like to talk a little bit about the zoning department. I know a question was asked earlier tonight, what's driving out our directors? And, in the 3.5 years I've been here, I'm now on my third director. Actually, it's my fourth director. Shortly after I arrived, Dr. Roschke departed. We had the opportunity to get Jeff Mills in here, who did a tremendous job. And then, I think about 2 months ago, we chose to reorganize the department with a director and deputy director to allow for some transition, some succession planning, and thought that model might better serve the department by splitting up some of the responsibilities between zoning and long-term planning and the everyday addressing nuisance, tall grass, that type of thing. To my surprise, after 2 weeks on the job, Emmy Randall chose to accept a position, I believe, in her own community. I believe that position was in the works as she was accepting this position. Gave us an opportunity for the leadership team to reassess the direction we were going. We had a lot of confidence in Jenna LeCount when we hired her. It's one of the reasons we proposed the deputy director concept, because we had two great quality applicants, and especially having Jenna being a Colerain resident, she understands the challenges we face here. So it was a no-brainer for us to promote her, or recommend the promotion of her to assume the duties of planning and zoning administrator. But then it brought back the issue of what's driving out our directors, and it's been my observation and in conversations with my team that the sheer volume of complaints that we get from the community with regards to tall grass, litter, property maintenance, junk cars, those types of things, the volume is such that it doesn't allow them to do the types of long-term planning that we really need to be doing here to be a best-in-class community. So we brainstormed on how can we address this in a better fashion that's going to allow us to keep the budget neutral, but to reallocate responsibilities maybe to a different department so that we can shift the focus, so that our zoning department becomes more focused on long-range planning, dealing with the businesses and the residents and those zoning issues that happen on a day-to-day basis, and pull the nuisance piece out. And what we're proposing to do under this is, if you remember the old model, well, let's go back several years. When I arrived, we had a full-time code inspector, 2 part-time code inspectors, a full-time planner, a full-time administrative assistant, and a full-time director. Immediately, we downsized the department under Mr. Mills' leadership, and we kind of functioned with a director, an administrative assistant, and up until about a year ago, a part-time receptionist. Then we brought on a planner. So what we're proposing to do here is to, and we've posted, and part of the recommendation tonight is to hire a planning administrative assistant, somebody that has some knowledge in planning that can assist the director in moving the department forward from a long-range planning perspective, and allow us to remove the nuisance piece of that, send it up to our public services department, who right now spend a great deal of time doing most of the abatements. They're involved in the process anyway, so if we can pull it out of the department, let them do long-range planning, and then have our public services department handle the complaint line as they come in, log the complaints, and facilitate, and distribute the staffing from an inspection perspective and an enforcement perspective. And the way we propose to do that is to use a member of the Public Services Department to do the preliminary inspections and the final inspections, use our code enforcement officer in the police department to do the actual enforcement, and then to have one administrative assistant tracking everything and actually dispersing the workflow amongst all parties. And then she works directly for Mr. Lang, who works for Mr. Birkenauer. So we believe we're creating a greater accountability model and being more efficient so that we can hopefully address some of these concerns. I would ask for some patience with the community. With this last week, we answered 50 complaint calls, and I know there's a lot of people out there frustrated with the process. Some of those calls are as long as 5 to 10 minutes long. Makes it very inefficient to work through that process. We understand the concerns greater than anybody because of the calls we get. We're not in a position to have the staffing adequate to do proactive, so we do have to depend on our community to report those violations to us. But when they do come in, the process is lengthy. It starts with the documentation and inspection, enforcement, nuisance resolution, abatement, assessment, and we're going to start to get into an actual citation phase of this, where we're going to start to move forward not only with our tall grass and our litter, but our snipe signs that are along Colerain Avenue and all the illegal signs. We're going to start enforcing citations in court to business owners and property owners that fail to follow our zoning code. We believe these are huge barriers to us being a best-in-class community, and we believe, and I'm not afraid to say this, that if this system doesn't work, we'll regroup again and we'll come up with a solution that does work. But I believe it's worth an opportunity to try to get our zoning department focused on what they need to be doing with long-range planning and move the implementation of the nuisance process into our public services department. So the following recommendations I'm going to make is going to allow us to do that. The first being with the promotion of general account to the position of Director of Planning and Zoning at an annual salary of $70,000. And then upon her completion of her probation on June 22nd, 2016, her salary would be increased to $75,000.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt? Aye. Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
The second item is the hiring of a planning administrative assistant specialist to hire Christina Hamilton as planning administrative specialist at $20.19 an hour, effective October 13th. Contingent upon fulfillment of a physical and background check. If you have specific questions with regards to Christina, that recommendation came from Jenna and a team. The HR director interviewed her. She comes with the skill set that we think necessary to do the job.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt? Aye. Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
In an effort to try to make this thing work, we're asking for a recommendation to bring back Becky Reno, who recently retired from the department as an independent contractor at $30 an hour, not to exceed 150 hours, to assist the team with the transitional changes regarding the nuisance inspections and enforcement, so that we can actually get all the pieces and parts moving in the right direction. We have a deadline coming up on September 30th to get all the assessments to the county auditor. It's a huge commitment we've got to make, so we need to bring a resource in to help us get there.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt? Aye. Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
And I'd like to recommend the pay changes for those listed: Lindsay Helmers to $24.04 an hour, Shannon Baker to $26.15, and Nancy Spears. These individuals are administrative assistants that work in various departments we're shifting responsibilities from accounting to public safety to free up resources so that we can tackle this nuisance problem. And I think it's important to recognize that while this particular reorganization is budget neutral, as an entire township, we're still down 4 administrative assistants over when we were hired. So we have streamlined and we've reorganized to try to be better efficient and more accountable at what we do. And yes, they're making more money than the previous administrative assistants, but we believe they have the skill set and the competencies necessary to move us forward. So I'd like to recommend the pay changes.
Okay, move to approve. Second.
Mr. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt? Aye. Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
My next item is to recommend approval to transfer $50,000 to the zoning department for continued operations. As you know, the general fund funds our zoning department. So rather than just transfer the money at the beginning of the year, we do it throughout the year so we can monitor cash flow and make sure that we just give them enough money to operate and not carry a significant surplus in that account.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt? Aye. Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
The last item on my report is the resolution accepting the bid for waste and recycling contract with Rumpke. Obviously, this is a very difficult decision for the board. I'd like to just point out a few things for your consideration. Back when we decided to do this RFP, there were 3 guiding principles. We wanted to provide lower cost garbage and recycling services to our community. We wanted to provide greater control over contract cost, fees, and collection, because at that time, we were getting a lot of calls on the surcharges. The surcharge is going up, the surcharge is going up. How can they do that? Fuel prices are going down. And then we also want to increase our community recycling. So those were pretty much the guiding principles as to why we wanted to look into this, to see whether a group purchasing co-op would drive savings to our community. The bids were issued, or the RFP was issued in April of 2015. The bids were presented May of 2015. And then we actually had a public hearing back in June on this issue. And we have purposely determined to wait until tonight to consider this, to give the community the most opportunity to provide input on this decision. The contract specification states that we had to act on this within 120 days. This is our last opportunity to do so, or we would have to possibly go back if the hauler would be willing to voluntarily extend the contract pricing. I can't say today whether they would do that or not. Ross and Springfield has passed theirs. If we choose not to act tonight, then basically the pricing would be off the table. The hauler could potentially honor them, or they could not honor them, at which point we would have to go back through the bid process if they chose not to extend that pricing. So I believe we tried to give every opportunity since June for the public to weigh in, and I think you've heard that at each meeting. You've received phone calls, you've received emails, and I recognize it's a very difficult decision, and turn it over for you for consideration.
Well, first of all, thank everybody who's not only attended our meetings tonight, previous meetings, but also who've contacted me with your thoughts, both pro and con. It's very valuable to me. This is somewhat of a difficult decision, although I will say the guiding principles that we started with, I think, have been achieved. Let me just address a few of the points that were made tonight, and thank you again for attending, especially how respectful your remarks were. I appreciate it. I'm not convinced this is going to hurt the middle class. The savings are modest. It's nothing you can probably take a vacation on. But like the savings that we're getting from gas and electric aggregation, it does accumulate over time, and it is savings nevertheless. The other issue that I really struggled with a lot was the senior issue, and that's the issue where some seniors are getting a discount right now. And it is true that the full service rate is going to be above that. However, I would argue most seniors are probably going to only need the reduced level of container, smaller container, and that rate is below what they're currently paying, so they are going to receive savings. The recycling issue, quite candidly, is one of the things that's driven my decision probably the most. Colerain Township, I believe, is less than 20% in terms of our recycling rate, and that's really low. And I think this contract will allow us to really move the needle and increase recycling to an exponentially higher level. So I think that's a good thing. The term of the contract is 5 years. Rumpke is claiming in court that the current landfill has 10 years left, and so the notion of this extending the life of the landfill or whatever, I just don't buy, because if the contract doesn't work after 5 years, we can get out. But most importantly, I would argue a wide majority of the people in Ross, Springfield, and Colerain who would be under this contract now are already using Rumpke for their hauler and the disposal, and so I don't think it's going to move the needle too much on the life of the landfill or the amount of garbage they accept. I just don't accept the slippery slope to incorporation. That's just something that's just not on my radar, and it won't be. Nor is the loss of freedom. I think is a point that does resonate with me a little bit. But in fact, it resonates with me a lot, because you're right, I am a staunch Republican, and I'm proud of it, and freedom is one of the hallmarks of being a Republican. And that was something I kind of struggled with a little bit. But at the end of the day, I have to vote what I think is going to help most people in the township, and I think this will allow us to do it. This is the vehicle that allows us to save the money by having a rate that applies to everybody, and everybody's subjected to the contract. So that is those are my thoughts, and I'm inclined to support the proposal.
Jim, can I ask you one question? Sure. Is there any kind of cancellation? I mean, is 5 years 5 years, or is there any kind of, if Rumpke is not doing what they say they are, terminate the contract? Is there any that kind of clause in it?
There's non-performance language in the contract. Now, the steps that would have to be taken in order to determine that would be up to Larry and our legal team, but there are non-performance standards in the contract.
gonna lie, I'm having problems with this tonight. On one hand, I understand everything and agree with everything Jeff just said. I feel like it is our duty to do the best we can for our residents. I think if we polled our residents, I'd say 90% of our residents are Rumpke customers already. I don't think that's a too far off number there. So I don't really think we're changing the makeup of our residents at all. I think we are denying them the right to choose another company, but I don't know that outweighs the benefits that we'll get out of this. So I don't know what to say. I mean, I understand the eviction. I feel like every meeting there's something new that comes up that I'm like, oh, I never thought about that, or oh, okay. But at this point, I think it's the best deal we could do, and I don't think it's going to, like you said, I don't think it's going to prolong the landfill anymore. If anything, we should be recycling more and more. I'm looking forward to that piece of it greatly. I don't know. I guess that's where I'm at. Did you want to say anything?
I will say that, unfortunately, I know this issue is important, but I have a new job where there's a business relationship, prior business relationship with Rumpke, and out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to abstain on this vote.
Okay, I'll offer a motion to approve the contract as proposed.
I'll second.
Mr. Peters?
Abstain.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
That concludes my report.
Ms. Harlow, I think we're to you.
It's my turn. I'd like to ask for the board's usual approval of payroll purchase orders and receipts.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Dieters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
And I did want to offer an update on the Ohio checkbook. They told us it would be up this, Labor Day. So it's not. There's a little tab on there that says local government. So I sent our contact an email and said, hey, can you give me a quick update? So hopefully he'll get that to me, and hopefully we'll be up there in their format soon.
Well, and Ms. Harlow, to point out, because a lot of people seem to be making hay out of, we're not on this, we're not part of this. We were part of the pilot program to test this.
We were. I sent them
So
data.
it's not that we're not trying, it's up to them to get it going.
Absolutely. And in fact, this same data, just not in their pretty format, is already on our website. It's been on our website for years. It's, like I said, it's not in their pretty format, but the data's all there. So if you have any questions about it, feel free to send me a public information request. I'd be happy to help. But in the meantime, it's all there until they get it in the pretty format. So thank you.
Is there any further need for executive session tonight?
Do we have any minutes tonight? Okay. No, ma'am.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Dieters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Aye.